Hey, peacemakers, it's Lily. It's been a while. How are you all doing? So, summer's around the corner, and I know it doesn't feel like it if you live in Canada like me, where it's perpetually cold, but I can visibly see the weather getting warmer, and that has caused a slowdown in my podcast production, unfortunately, because guess what? I actually really got into sports lately. So, I've been spending a lot of time outdoors, bathing in the sun, doing sports. I've been swimming, playing ping pong, and above all, I really got into tennis to the point where I want to play it almost every day, and I'm asking all my friends to play with me all the time. It's kind of addicting. See, the strange thing is, growing up, I was never an athletic person. Quite the opposite, I was actually the nerdy kid in school. See, my favorite subjects were science and math and humanities, and I loved to read and write. But I was the furthest thing from sports. Like, I had nothing to do with track and field day. I remember we had to play soccer in middle school, and I always volunteered to be the defender so I can just stand there and chat with the goalie for the most part, who was a close friend of mine. And it was great because all the other girls wanted to be like midfielders and forwards, so it worked out nicely. And I opted out of gym class in grade 10 as soon as it became a non compulsory course, and I was like, thank God I'd never have to go to gym class ever again. It just felt like this huge burden that was taken off my shoulders. So, growing up, I became less physically coordinated compared to many other kids, well, because I didn't exercise as much and I never learned how to drive until I was 23. And I didn't become a confident driver until very recently. And I didn't learn how to swim until this year. And oddly enough, now that I am turning 29, approaching 30, all of a sudden I'm super into sports. It's like super weird. I even started watching some tennis matches and like even started talking about the World Cup with my friends. I don't know what has gotten into me. I just want to do sports all the time these days. I attribute this to post COVID emancipation, where I just don't want to be bound between four walls all the time anymore, and I just want to be outside. How about you? Do you feel the same? See, I have suddenly come to not only realize, but experience firsthand that sports actually teaches you so many valuable lessons that I've been missing out all these years, right? Not just about sports, but about life in general. When it comes to discipline and teamwork and hardship and sportsmanship and perseverance and pushing your own limits. I think it is the ultimate lesson in life. And plus, I find athletes to be some of the smartest people in the world who are often underestimated for their intelligence. I mean, think about it. They require hand-eye coordination, fast response, and when you play a cooperative game like basketball, soccer, football, or tennis, whatever it may be, it's literally like playing human chess on the ground, right? You're thinking and reacting and strategizing all at the same time. It's very mentally and physically demanding. Plus, sports keeps you fit. Personally, I realize that I feel more confident when I'm playing sports. I feel mentally and physically healthier, and I feel more alive and thriving than ever. So yeah, I've definitely digressed from today's topic of discussion, but that's my spiel on sports. So the take-home message is, wherever you live and no matter how old you are, if you can, take advantage of the nice weather, get active, go outside and play some sports. It will change your life for the better. I swear to God, this episode is not sponsored by Nike or some sport merchandise company. Anyway, so now back to topic of discussion for today, finally, which is impact investing. So you might have heard of this term before. So let's talk about it. What is impact investing, and why is it one of the best strategies to mitigate climate change and building a more sustainable future? Before you go, oh my gosh, this is going to be a super long and boring episode about finance. I hate finance, so I'm going to skip this episode now. Hear me out, okay? I'm also not a fan of finance. In fact, my dad wanted me to major in finance university. I declined because that's how much I hated finance. But this is actually important stuff, and this is not just some far-fetched discussion. This concerns your personal finance and well-being, so be sure to stick around if you can. So impact investing is basically investing money into companies and corporations that will fulfill their social responsibility and generate positive social and environmental impact while seeking returns on those investments. So, for example, if you're investing in a technology company that is developing a cutting-edge wastewater treatment technology or carbon capture technology Or if you're investing in projects that help minorities, or even offering loans to small businesses, or buying mortgage backed securities that offer affordable housing to low income communities, these all count as impact investing. You are essentially pouring capital into projects, initiatives, and companies that drive social good. And it's not just limited to environmental impact, right? If you care about gender equality, racial equality, income equality, impact investing encompasses all of those other areas as well. But specifically, I'm going to focus on environmental impact today because, well, that's the theme of my podcast. So, what kind of companies am I referring to when I'm talking about impact investment with respect to the environment? So, that's renewable energy, green computing, smart farming, energy efficiency, clean mobility and transportation, alternative proteins, waste management and recycling, water treatment, air quality, forest management, fuel cells, circular economy, etc., etc. All these industries count. So, let's first talk about why impact investing is a good idea and why you should practice it. So, let's first talk about why impact investing is a good idea and why you should practice it if you're thinking about building your financial portfolio for long-term asset management and growth. Basically, if you want more money for, I don't know, going back to school, buying a house, retirement, whatever, right? We all want more money. We all need more money in our life. Now, granted, I am not a financial advisor, but I did recently meet up with a good friend who does work in finance. Specifically, he works in asset management. And we had a really good talk about ESG investing, which is also what helped kind of spawn this episode because I kind of felt inspired after we talked. And he was actually asking me, he said, Lily, do you think ESG investing actually matters in mitigating and reversing climate change? And I said, absolutely. When it comes to climate change, more so when it comes to climate change, people think about renewable energy, right? Or they think about alternative protein, electric cars, wind turbines, and whatnot. But more so than transportation and agriculture, the finance sector is actually one of the biggest sectors that has to decarbonize and transform if we want to meet our collective climate goals. And by the finance sector, I mean all of these major investment firms in the world, such as BlackRock, JP Morgan Chase, UBS, Vanguard, etc., etc. Collectively, they have amassed trillions of capital and assets, and all these asset managers and hedge fund managers are the ones assembling portfolios and deciding which companies and projects to invest in. So depending on how and where they channel all this money, it's obviously going to shape the trajectory of our future and our planet, right? I mean, think about it. If asset managers all decide to bankroll the oil and gas industry, instead of companies driving innovation in climate technology, that's going to lead to more gas cars, pipelines being built, oil rigs, and less progress in sustainable development. And if you're wondering, well, why can't asset managers just invest only in renewable energy companies like Tesla or Beyond Meat? Why do they continue to invest in oil and gas knowing the damage that it is doing to our planet? Well, because shareholders demand returns, right? And oil and gas is a very lucrative industry still that can reliably turn up profits, even though we know oil will become a stranded asset soon enough. But it's tough. Actually, both the EU and the government of California have voted in favor of banning the production of gas cars by 2035. But it's not going to be an overnight change. And meanwhile, investors are greedy and they want to capitalize on oil as much as they can, even if they're doing so at the expense of our future. And remember that at COP26, the leaders of the finance industry in developed countries made a pledge to provide $100 billion every year to aid poorer and developing countries to combat climate change. And currently, we're actually under-delivering on that front. Now, interestingly enough, Larry Fink, who is the CEO of BlackRock, pushing for sustainable investing in the financial world, had to write a public letter addressing all the CEOs in the world titled The Power of Capitalism. This is on the BlackRock website, by the way. If you don't believe me, you can go to blackrock.com and look it up. But I just found it interesting that he wrote a letter called The Power of Capitalism. And anyway, so here is a snippet of that letter. I quote, he said, "Climate risk is an investment risk. We focus on sustainability not because we are environmentalists, but because we are capitalists and fiduciaries to our clients." Let me repeat that part for you. He said, we are not environmentalists, we are capitalists. So note this, even Larry Fink, the very capitalist CEO of the largest asset management firm in the world, knows that you cannot grow the economy indefinitely if the environment is being slowly degraded. Now, without the planet and its resources, there will be no services and goods, and all production will come to a halt, and there will be no returns for shareholders. And Larry Fink knows this very well, and now he's trying to get his clientele to understand that, and that we all need to take part in the transition to net zero. And by the way, I especially like this paragraph that he wrote on the website, so I will read it verbatim for you. I quote, he said, "The next 1,000 unicorns won't be search engines or social media companies. They will be sustainable, scalable innovators. Startups that help the world decarbonize and make the energy transition affordable for all consumers. We need to be honest about the fact that green products often come at a higher cost today. Bringing down the green premium will be essential for an orderly and just transition. Bold incumbents can and must do it too. Indeed, many incumbents have an advantage in capital, market knowledge, and technical expertise on the global scale required for the disruption ahead." Thank you, Larry, for saying that and pointing out the obvious that we're still not seeing. And, clearly by incumbents, I'm doing air quotes, but you can't see it. By incumbents, he's talking about all these oil and gas giants, automakers, right, et cetera, all these existing tycoons in these various carbon-intensive industries, right? Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. But, I was thinking, it actually must be really tough to be Larry. You want to do the right thing, right, as the CEO of the largest asset management firm in the world, but you have shareholders who don't necessarily see eye to eye with your vision, so you have to convince them to take the high road. And I actually really like that public letter, so I thought it was really cool for him to step up to the plate and finally be a leader in the financial sector, to be able to be vocal about that. Anyway, so back to you personally, because that's obviously what you care about. You're probably wondering, well, how does any of this affect you? You're like, well, I'm not Larry Fink. I'm not the CEO of BlackRock. Like, why do I care about, right, like sustainable investment? Well, if you currently have enough savings sitting in a bank somewhere and you're looking to grow your assets by building a solid portfolio that also helps the planet, I really suggest you look into sustainable and impact investing. See, many investment management services like Vanguard, Wealthsimple, they all offer financial products that specifically target socially responsible investing. Nowadays, sustainable investment options are not only ubiquitous, they're now becoming the industry standard and the norm, especially with protocols like ESG, right? I personally don't bank with Vanguard, but I think if you invest with Vanguard, they have ESG specific funds. And then there are also many other investment firms and venture capitals that specialize in impact investing and specifically clean tech investing, right? You have companies like the Clean Energy Venture Group and also Breakthrough Energy, which is actually founded by Bill Gates, that specifically focus on investing in clean technology. Speaking of, Breakthrough Energy recently launched the Breakthrough Energy Catalyst Fund, which plans to invest $15 billion in clean tech, which includes investments in technologies like green hydrogen, sustainable aviation fuel, direct carbon capture, and long-term energy storage. Now, I personally go with Wealthsimple's mutual funds, and I've always opted for their socially responsible portfolio. I have to say the performance is actually not bad, compared to the regular portfolio. Now, if you're more advanced in investing and you want lower fees, you might want to go with index funds or ETFs that, for example, track top clean tech companies. The world of finance and investing can get very confusing, so I suggest you book an appointment with your financial advisor and ask them about it. That is literally their job. Ask them about ESG investing and ask them to advise you on how you can invest your money so you can grow your assets and also help build a more sustainable future. I highly, highly, highly encourage you. If you have money sitting in the bank or it's sitting in a mutual fund somewhere, why not pay attention to which industries you're actually helping to contribute to grow? So Now, personally, I have mutual funds, but I also have stocks in Beyond Meat, SunPower Corporation, and a few other clean tech companies. Now, this is a personal true story. I bought roughly like 200 stocks from SunPower Corporation when it was $5 each, and this is pre-COVID. And during its peak, my returns were 300%, which was really, really great. It was in the thousands. I know the market is doing horribly right now, but I actually think now is the perfect time to research and buy, right? Because you want to buy low and sell high. And why not get into impact investing while there is a market dip? Your personal investment can be powerful in shaping the future positively. But here is the thing. A lot of people think that they need to be an expert in clean tech and know all the market trends before knowing which companies to invest in. Wrong. You don't have to research individual stocks and companies if you don't have the time to do all that research. I repeat, you don't have to research like which companies are leaders in clean tech. That's literally what index funds, ETFs, and mutual funds are for, right? You can go for mutual funds where someone else actively manages your assets. Or if you don't trust them or you want to track an index directly, you can also do that. So that way you don't have to specifically buy stocks from specific companies, right? Take advantage of whatever financial service and tools you have and use them. I am sure now most of these services offer sustainable investment options if you just look into it. And a lot of these funds are passively managed and have pretty competitive MER fees. And of course, whoever is listening to this podcast, if you already work in the finance sector, either as an asset manager or financial analyst or advisor, I would like to encourage you to think about how you can pivot your career to work in ESG and impact investing, and think about how you can build more sustainable portfolios, but also convincing your clients that it is worth the switch, right? I think it still takes a shift in mindset to see that short-term returns don't always generate long-term gains. And I think financial professionals should also do their due diligence in conveying the environmental impact of investing to their clients when helping them make the right investment choices. Oh my gosh, that sounded like a PSA. For some reason, I sounded like I was reading the script for a commercial. But I swear to God, this is just like coming straight from my heart. I am not representing any financial or like asset management firms. This is just how I truly feel. I think the finance sector really needs to decarbonize, and because of this trickle-down effect, right? What every asset manager is doing matters because each asset manager manages a pool of clients. So if all of them do their due diligence, I'm sure collectively we can have an impact. And of course, for all my vegan friends who are listening, if you currently have actively or passively managed financial portfolios, or you have a bunch of savings sitting in a bank right now, you should also look into impact investing to maximize animal welfare. Look up this 4-letter code, VEGN, in Google, okay? Just go on Google and search VEGN, which is the US Vegan and Climate ETF. And on the whole, this ETF has historically outperformed S&P 500 by as much as 4%. So look into it if you're interested in ETFs. Now, ETFs are a whole different topic. I'm not an expert, so I won't go into it. But if you're interested, please look it up. It is a powerful financial tool. All right, peacemakers, I think that concludes today's episode. See, I promised you I would keep it short because I am not a fan of finance, so I don't even want to prolong the discussion. But I hope you learned something about impact investing and, I don't know, maybe even sports from my digression in the beginning. Well, the most important thing is to put words into action. And investing can seem really confusing and daunting at times, but remember that you as an investor have a powerful tool to shape the future of our planet and your life. And that is with your money. Not only so, companies that prioritize environmental impact will thrive financially in the long term. We already see governments making stringent policies that introduce more and more environmental regulations. That is the pattern. So sooner or later, all the companies will either have to adapt, transform, or go extinct. So get in the impact investing game early and reap the benefits later. All right, that's it for today's episode. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.